Alright, what's going on, guys? So we are about 3 weeks out from the release of Metroid Prime 4, and this is, without a doubt, my most anticipated game of all time. I've been waiting almost 20 years for this game. Nothing else even comes close to how much I want Metroid Prime 4, and lately it's been in the news for all the wrong reasons. A few days ago, the final previews of the game came out as some journalists got to get hands-on with a little bit more of the game than the demo that was provided at all the other game shows this year. And everyone that got hands-on with the game pretty much collectively agrees that there is one element in this section they got to play that absolutely does not belong in Metroid Prime. However, there also seems to be a side opposing the view of the journalists, saying that it doesn't really matter, everyone's overreacting. Is it really as bad as they say? Well, we're gonna break it all down today. I'm gonna tell you why everyone is wrong and give you my take on all of this as someone who has been playing Metroid Prime my entire life. I understand what makes Metroid Prime, and not just any other game. And whether that sounds bad or not, this is something I'm very passionate about, and I'll explain why I think I'm correct on this. Now, before everybody jumps to the comments section because for some reason this is a heated debate, let me give you my credentials as a Metroid Prime fan. The first video game I ever bought for myself was Metroid Prime 2 on release. Of course, I had other video games, but this was the first one I ever picked out at a store entirely by chance because I thought the cover looked cool. That was one of the most important decisions that I ever made to shape my life. It sounds corny, but butterfly effect. I can look back and find that a lot of the biggest changes somehow stem from that decision. And to this day, Metroid Prime 2 is still my favorite game of all time. I've played it more times through than I know. And since then, of course, I've played Prime 1 several times, I've played Prime 3, but I think Metroid Prime 2 is special. Now, unfortunately, Metroid Prime 2 is the most underappreciated of the trilogy. It probably has the least players out of the three, and I think that right there is why we're even having a discussion about the topic that we're talking about today. But real quick, what separates Prime 2 from Prime 1 and 3? Prime 2 is much darker, it's harder, it's tougher. It is the one game out of the three where Samus is truly alone. Ironically, like we're going to talk about, she's sent to go find Galactic Federation troopers who have sent out a distress signal. However, upon arrival on Aether, she finds a world corrupted by darkness, where all the G-Fed troopers have been turned essentially into zombies, and she has to escape Aether, but simultaneously handle the threat on the planet before it spreads to the rest of the universe, while contending with Dark Samus, also known as the Metroid Prime. It is the most gritty game out of the three, and it is the one game where she is truly trapped on an alien planet with absolutely no one else there. Everything in that game is alien. Everything. And the reason I don't say that for Prime 1 is because the world of Prime 1 is a little bit more grounded in human civilization, in human influence, with the space station, and even a lot of the settings are still a little bit too human. Now, with that in mind, let's get into the controversy.
But you're also not sitting next to Phil anymore in that cubicle, so... Win?
Everyone collectively agrees the worst part of Metroid Prime 3 was the Galactic Federation, and in that game, they were only present for tiny portions, and they acted like hardened soldiers, and they were set alongside very alien bounty hunters who were actually cool characters. Metroid Prime 4 has decided to lean into the human, to introduce Galactic Federation soldiers who will be with you for the majority of the game, and we know that's true because it has already been confirmed that each of the major areas will have a Galactic Federation trooper for you to rescue and escort along your way. I had a bad feeling this was going to be the case, because you could tell it was the direction they wanted to take in Prime 3, but they didn't because they were stuck into the Dark Samus storyline. Now, I don't think Prime 3 was a bad game. I just think it's the worst Prime game, specifically for the reasons I mentioned, pulling you away from alien planet exploration, loneliness, and deep contemplation of the world around you, to playing babysitter for soldiers who have no business being soldiers in the first place. And that appears to be as soon as you get into the game's world. In Viewros, the first thing you're greeted with in Metroid Prime 4, you come across the Galactic Federation soldier Mackenzie, a helpless, quirky, know-it-all nerd type character who knows apparently how to explore alien planets better than Samus because he's constantly saying to check the map, to open doors, to shoot creatures right in front of you, as if she can't see them and doesn't know how to check a map. Now, he essentially serves as the opening area's tutorial tutorial character, except you've already played the tutorial by the time you get here, having gone through the entire level of the Federation outpost. Learn the basic systems of the game that Mackenzie is going to explain to you annoyingly again later, and fought the first major boss in Abarax. So the whole notion of having a tutorial character to explain the game's basics to you at that point is redundant because you've already learned how and done it. So let's take a little comparison between the first life form you're introduced to in Metroid Prime 2 and the atmosphere provided in the old Metroid Primes versus this new one.
Samus Aran?
Hey! Hey, Samus Aran! I'm stuck! Help me out! Oh! Please get me down. I'll just stay right here. Try not to die.
Now, after this all came out and the conversation exploded, I saw this tweet that was garnering a little bit of attention. And this seems to kind of be the side which doesn't mind this sort of character. They said, almost like he's a tutorial character that goes away after you're done with the basics. You'd imagine other professional journalists with supposed experience of games would have picked that up. But we don't want to sacrifice clickbait headlines for common sense, do we? Now, aside from just being condescending and rude for no reason, let's talk about picking things up and use the exact clip that they included in this tweet. Literally in the video they provided. You can see this clip here with Samus alongside a lot of other G-Fed troopers and Mackenzie. But you'll notice that Samus has the new suit. So what does this mean? It means that he's with you at least for the entirety of the whole first area. This is not just a basics tutorial character. They're trying to make this person one of the main characters. And again, it looks like every single area will have one character follow you around. That is entirely against everything that makes Metroid Prime Metroid Prime. Now, we talked about the desert biome and the bike. That's essentially going to be a Hyrule field for all the areas, joining them around this big open field. And I made a video talking about that where I said it's a bad idea because Metroid Prime levels have always been extremely interconnected between the areas, and open space kind of goes against the formula we've always had. And I had a bunch of people in my comments saying, well, why do you care? It's just like what they did in Breath of the Wild. Well, I care because I'm not playing Breath of the Wild. I'm trying to play Metroid Prime. You don't get to come in from another game series and say this decision is okay because it worked in that series. This is not the same series. This is an entirely different game with an entirely different audience. And the same is true for companion characters in a Metroid Prime game. I don't care if Donkey Kong Country has a companion character that gives you tutorial messages. I'm not playing that game. I'm trying to play Metroid Prime. And if you're someone who has not played the Metroid Prime games in the past, who is now saying, well, why do you care? We care because this game is not like every other game. This is one of the few times where game journalists are absolutely 100% correct. What makes Metroid Prime is isolation, loneliness, and atmosphere, and quiet exploration. To disrupt that is to disrupt the entire identity of the Metroid Prime games. And if you're gonna do that, then take the Prime name out of it. Alright, and that's enough complaining. Aside from that, everything else in this game looks great. The graphics are phenomenal, the music sounds amazing, the areas look super cool. If we do get an option in the settings to turn off dialogue, to turn off tutorial prompts, then maybe we can just kind of forget about that other stuff. Now, of course, you're not escorting a companion 100% of the time in this game. There are very clearly plenty of areas where you're by yourself. And that is where the game is going to shine its best, because that's what Metroid Prime is. Now, almost a 2-decade wait for this game. Is it going to live up to the hype? I hope so badly. No one wants this game to succeed more than me. I'm not preying on its downfall because there's something I don't like in the trailer. I'm concerned because I care, and I guarantee I care much more than everyone saying to just ignore it and be quiet. Is the game going to have those epic moments, those tense dark corners, the super satisfying puzzles, and moments of vibing with the music while your gun sways to the beat? Yes, it will. And if that's still the vast majority of the gameplay, and they lean into it more than anything else, this can be a masterpiece. But based on what we just now saw, I'm scared. Everything else about this game has the potential to be a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. The other characters at least look decent. They look like soldiers, and Psylux is the perfect villain we've been waiting on for a long time. But I really hope they lean into the storyline of Samus and Psylux much more than these G-Fed troopers, but we'll just have to wait and see. Again, I hate to be negative, especially about Metroid Prime. I care so much about this game and want it to succeed more than anything, but I had to talk about this. But y'all let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. Do you think it's fine? Have you played the other Metroid Prime games, and if so, how do you feel about these characters? Either way though, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to leave a like on it and subscribe if you're new around here, and I will catch you in the next one.